Welcome to week 3 of Clicker Training Mastery. Today, let's see what we are going to talk about and then share screen. Okay, share presentation. Not working.
I see.
Anyway, well, the shared window is closed. Okay, we'll try again.
Yeah, I saw a picture there of a horse.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to share the presentation slide. Open and okay. Okay, that was technical stuff. I'm gonna share my screen again. Hopefully the presentation will not kick me out. And then I want to go back one slide. Yes, this is week 3. We will talk about the advanced training ABCs, antecedent, behavior, and consequence. And then I would like to talk about 3 lessons, 3 key lessons, and give examples how to use them as training tools. Then a Q&A, case study, and homework. But because this presentation will be rather long, I would like to start with the case study and give each 10 minutes to discuss your case study and make it better. Stop share. Yeah. I saw your case study, how you wrote it all out. Very good. I missed the description. How big is the diameter of the circle?
Yeah, sure. It can be 10 meters, maybe.
Yeah, because in the beginning, because we talked about it last week, that trot and canter is a little bit difficult for her. So start bigger, and then as you advance, you can make the circle a little bit smaller, just according to what she offers. But if you put it in the description right away, then you know where you started. So if you want to do the same, train the same behavior with canter, then you know you have to start at least the similar size or even bigger, because it's harder. So that's just, yeah.
It's just don't have any access to a bigger area with a fence around. So now I use the widest part of the paddock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and you can put that in there too. I used the widest part of the paddock. That was my starting point, because then you know, like if you teach her to trot onto smaller circles, where you start is because I would like you to describe training this behavior as good as possible. So when you read it in 5 years, you really exactly know, oh yeah, this is where I started, because it's so easy to forget that you started in the biggest part of the paddock, or that where you started. Also write down where she was before you started the case study. What were the problems? What made you decide to take this as a case study? Because once she can do the behavior, and I've seen the video of you, and I've seen that you already made so much progress, it's so easy to forget it was really a problem. And it will make you think that you're not a good trainer, because your horse is already trained, and there's like but you started this because this was like a problem and a challenge. So I want you to remember that it was a challenge and you overcame this challenge, because that's what will happen. So you remember, so you get used to the idea, like, I picked a behavior. It's super difficult. I don't know how. Okay. Oh, I think that all the time. But results? Oh, I managed to get over it all the time, because that's what builds your confidence. And also, if you write all the steps down in your training logbook, and I know you do that so well. Then it's nice if you read back, like after this course, if you can really back, oh, day one, I didn't know where to start. Day two, we did this, we tried this, this was the result. I adjusted like this. So you have really a really one behavior that you know everything about, because all these concepts you will use in other behaviors. Once you know, oh, my pitfall is to get insecure or frustrated, or Shakira is offering this behavior all the time, then you know, oh, that happened before. We overcame that. So that will help you train other behavior. So tell me, how did it go this week?
I think it was wonderful. The square thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went away amazingly well. Shakira can do one circle now. Before I will click on the third pole, and she'll get the treat on the fourth pole. Lucas is doing 2 circles, and I think he could do more. And he's even trotting. Shakira walks, but it's too small for her to, I don't expect her, I don't even want her to trot. So we did the square circle. I just call it the square circle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And then today I thought I would work on trotting. No, yesterday I took the square circle over to the wheel circle. I've been working on circling around. I made a circle with the posts and ropes,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't prepare her for success, because I had fenced off Beauty, but she was too close, so she could stretch her neck over and disturb Shakira, so she didn't want to pass her.
But this is a really good learning point to also put in your training journal, because this is also something that, well, now we're talking about it, so you probably will remember, but just to be sure, write it down.
Prepare for success. I'll have to keep Beauty far enough away so Shakira feels safe. And also I was in a hurry, and I need to take Shakira to the stable and close the door, or put her out on the field to graze, because she wouldn't let Lucas alone, and she will go under the rope fences and over or whatever.
Those clicker trained horses, they always want to be trained. Like not like normal horses that run away if you want to be in the arena. Ha.
She got in Lucas' way all the time, so he didn't get to practice anything.
And do you think it makes a difference if you train her first?
I've tried. I think she gets inspired by. She's a bit lazy, and when she studies Lucas, she gets a bit envy. She wants to be. So I find to train him first, it's much better, because then she's really motivated. Now it's my turn, and I'll show you I can do this.
Yes, and this is also a good thing to write down in your training logbook, that that you can use. First of all, that they social learning, it's called, that they look at a behavior. Oh, if you do 2 and you get a click, I can do 2 rounds. Maybe they are thinking that. That's one. 2, that the order of training the horses can be of an influence on the quality. Like those are all different things that you can only find them out when you're training. You can write it down in your shaping plan, but you don't know what happens. And like, you know, Beauty coming over the fence and interrupting. So these are all important things that makes you, once you become aware of all these things that influences your training, you, next time you train, you already know, oh, I have to put this horse there, that horse there, then this is the order, da 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 da. And that makes you become very experienced instead of just go there and think, let's train.
Yeah, the best I found is to, I now have two things I practice. I practice on the bravery thing, to go outside, and the best thing there is to take Lucas first, because he's not so scared of going away. And then Shakira will stay at home when she's looking down at him down the road, and she sees he is brave and he can do it. And she's become, I never went so far down the road before without her pulling or trying to get a home or getting to the grass. So that's working very well. And when I've taken her to, and when he comes back, I will do the lunging training, because then she connects to me and I can take her out and down the road. I found that was much better than to start with going down the road before we got connected, because there's so much to watch. And yeah, she's not, she's more, yeah, she's more in tune with me if I train her first in the paddock and connect, and then we'll go back, and then she will stay on the grass, and then I can train Lucas, and then he is also very eager to do the training with the lunging, and she will stay on the grass and won't bother him. So I think that's the perfect way right now.
Yeah, and things will all also change over time, but by writing it down, it will make it will prepare you, and it will put it into your unconscious mind that this is a part of setting it up for success. Like maybe in a far future you have a different horse, and then everything will change again. But then at least you are prepared. It's not like, oh, I choose to pick one of the horses, but the horses kind of have an influence on that too. Um, Also, in your training plan, how many poles do you use? And you can maybe sketch, make a little drawing. So make it as detailed as possible, because it will be fun after the course to read it all back and have that memory, like, oh yeah, that you really remember where you started. And because it is part of this training is also to make you aware of how you're growing, but also what tools did you use and how did you use them, because that's the most important thing. Do you have any questions or struggles in your key case study right now?
No, I think it's going, I'm really looking forward to make to try on the circle better without any disturbances. And today I practiced trotting, but just on the long side of the paddock, not in a circle, just back and forth. And Shakira offered trotting before she just wanted to trot. And she would trot with me for a whole long side. And even that is just amazing, because she wanted to have a treat for every step she took. And if she would just plant, I won't move if you don't feed me. And now she's running. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, that is, and that's also something really important to write down. Like, it's because we forget all the time, and then we are here and we are trained in our community society to only compare ourselves, like compare our chapter 2 with somebody else's chapter 20, but we have to compare ourselves with ourselves, and then we can see how we really were growing. And that is the really important thing, I think, because yeah, I have seen Shakira like going through different phases of training, like when she got a little bit more mugging, and then when she didn't really offer more behavior. but it's a phase, and I want you to realize everything is a phase. And if it's like a positive phase, it will, yeah, it's also a phase, and it will turn into something different.
Yes.
The other way around too, if there's something not going well, that's also a phase. And I noticed with positive reinforcement, everything you train, you can morph into something else because of positive reinforcement.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm so proud. And I love to see how detailed you work and to write everything down. And then you have 3 horses, but you write it down for 2 horses for Lucas as well. So it's double the work. But yeah, it's really wonderful because you can also see like that you have different training approaches for your 2 horses and how important it is to yeah, make it really tailored for each horse, personalize the training. And yeah, because that's how I came up with the key lessons, because people said like the general idea in clicker training is no, there is no method, there is no system. And because every horse and every trainer and every situation is different, so you have 3 things with lots of variations. And I was always looking for, but what's the same? And that's how I came up with the key lessons, because I wanted to give like um, a system. And if you know the key lessons, then you can just vary and be creative. And so that was the purpose of finding this and then teaching this. Is I'm so happy and grateful that you are my guinea pigs in this course.
Yeah.
Because I already knew that it worked, but like putting it in course form is really interesting.
Hmm.
So let's start with the presentation and see if I won't get kicked out from the presentation. So this is what we're going to do, and I have a lot of text and I've written it down. And if I go off like blah 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 and you miss the point, just raise your hand, interrupt, because it's a lot. And so the ABC of training, I talked in week 2 of this. A means antecedent, B is behavior, and C is the consequence. So if you train, it's A leads to B leads to C. So for instance, appearing of the target in the beginning leads to touching the target, that's the behavior, and that leads to a consequence. And then the next stage is that you want your cue to be the antecedent. And then it becomes cue, behavior, click. So in training with repetition, you think it looks like this, right? A, B, C, antecedent, behavior, click, and then again and again. But there's more that happens because you have the appearance of the target, that's the blue arrow, and then touching the target, that's the green arrow, and then the consequence, that's the click. But what about the reinforcer? What happens then? So let's see what really happens during the orange arrow. Because if we split it up, you can see that there will be happening a lot, because the C is the click. And then usually behavior B1 ends, because click is end of behavior. But behavior never really ends unless your horse drops that. That's the truth. I cannot change it. There's always behavior going on. So the click means end of behavior B, and then we have the reinforcer. So if behavior B1 ends, like targeting, what behavior is occurring in this second green arrow before the reinforcer comes. And what is happening? Because you see the click becomes the reinforcer for behavior B2. So we have a cue, for instance, touch. The horse touches the target. Then we click. Then the touching ends. Then there's another behavior. That's the blue. That's another antecedent for behavior B2. And then we give the reinforcer. And that's so the click becomes the cue for the next behavior. So for me, it was like, what? And also, if you have repetitions, even if you click or don't click and give a reinforcer, and you repeat it, then it's also like antecedent, behavior, consequence, antecedent, behavior, consequence. But the consequence of this behavior becomes the antecedent, the predictor, or for behavior B. So goal behavior B1 leads to the click and ends, because that's maybe touching the target. And then another behavior happens, which leads to the consequence of you giving the treat. So this is what it looks in a circle again. So what really happens is that your click becomes a cue. I'm going to put one slide back. In table manners, I was really keen on you only click for if the horse is relaxed muzzle, mouth closed. Then you click for that behavior. If it's targeting, still relaxed muzzle. I built that in. And then you click. And then if the horse is pinning the ears, he doesn't get the reinforcer. Remember, if he's coming towards you, now your feet for position, because this was what happening. I knew the click is also the cue for the next behavior for the reinforcer, because there's two reinforcing moments, one the click and two when you feed the treat. So that's why I was really keen on make sure that your horse still behaves properly when you deliver the treat. So in table manners, it was table manners, click, table manners, treat. So we really made that behavior of table manners very strong. But you can also use this concept that the click becomes the cue for a second behavior in advanced training. Because it doesn't always have to be table manners that the click is a cue for. So when can you use this behavior? I also have a video in which you can see it, what I mean. You can use this behavior deliberately when your horse is ready to learn complex behaviors. When you are ready to learn complex behaviors. And I think people are ready if they master also the key lessons for trainers, like you are doing, like making the training plan and knowing about the learning theory, making shaping plans, and really understanding what is happening, what is causing the behavior. It also can help give your horse more clarity and prevent frustration if you use this well. So then you pull the click and the delivery of the reinforcer apart. So the click will really become a cue for a different behavior, a second behavior. And it can help you speed up the learning process while providing clarity. You can make notes. I also will make a PDF scan of the slides for you. only use this for experienced horses and advanced trainers. So we are going to use this when we turn the key lessons into our training tools as well. And you can deliberately ask for a second behavior after the click and then extend the delivery of your reinforcer. So start by asking for a behavior your horse really understands or is likely to understand quickly by connecting the dots himself. Make sure you pick something simple and straightforward that doesn't create frustration or confusion. For instance, you put a jump there or a pole on the ground, and then after the pole you put a mat on the ground, and then you click for stepping over the pole, and then you walk towards the mat and you give the reinforcer when your horse steps on the mat. So the second behavior that you are reinforcing is walking, because that's the behavior that happened after walking over the pole, and then also walking in a straight line, keeping momentum instead of when your horse is stepping over the pole, then you click and immediately, where's my treat? And then it stops. So you want that behavior because you want to create a more complex behavior altogether. So once your horse is a really seasoned clicker horse, the click in itself has become a secondary reinforcer. If he hears the click, he knows, yes, I heard it. I did something well. They know. It's just like us when we play a computer game and we hear a sound or a special short music that indicates that we can go to the next level. We become totally happy. Yeah, we won. In fact, just hearing the music will make us happy if you play that game over and over and over again. Or maybe I have a coffee machine that makes a sound. I'm like, coffee is ready. Now I can get coffee. But the sound in itself doesn't mean anything. Like the music, if you play it to somebody else, it doesn't mean anything unless, but oh, so that became a secondary reinforcer. Primary reinforcers are reinforcers that we like without learning, like a piece of cake or a treat for the horse. That's the primary reinforcer. So use this concept by for click is cue and taking a little bit more time only for experienced horses and advanced clicker trainers. So the warning is never teach this concept to novice clicker trainers or non-trainers, because this will set you and the receiver up for failure, because it's quite complicated. And if you really need to understand the learning theory, like what is a reinforcer and how do you use a reinforcer and how do you know it's a reinforcer? Well, we know that if it increases the behavior, it's a reinforcer. If it decreases the behavior, it was a punisher. And if nothing happens, it was a neutral stimulus. So in this way, click as cue, you can use that. For novice trainers and novice horses, you can use this concept to strengthen key lesson table manners, like behave nicely before I can click you, because you build that into targeting, and then you click and then you wait until the horse again behaves like relaxed and is not grabbing the treat and so on. And click is cue. I will show you a video and then it will become more clear why you don't use it for green horses, unexperienced clicker horses, or horses that really have a strong reinforcement history with negative reinforcement training and not yet enough with positive reinforcement. Because those horses would be easily confused and frustrated if you would take this concept to the advanced level, because they just learned click is treat, and now you're suddenly breaking the contract by asking for more behaviors before the reinforcer. And traditionally trained horses have a lot of experience with inconsequence trainers. So most of them are very insecure about taking initiative because that was punished in the past. So if you create confusion by not offering the treat right away and desiring first more behavior, then you can end up with a mugging horse, or worse, a horse that goes into learned helplessness and just gives up because click is treat and now I don't get a treat. Oh, and you were just referring to that in the beginning that Shakira kind of gave up, like click, and also then they start like, I did this, where's my treat now? So I'm gonna show a video where you can see this. More behavior for one click. Share this one. Can you see the video? Okay. So this was for in training two moments to strengthen the behavior, the click and the reinforcer. But more behaviors. So you can purposely reinforce when feeding. I'll share this video in warning. I just told the word. I'll share this video so you can read everything that is there. Okay, play. I'm not sure if I stopped the video or that it's really long warning because I wanted to make sure people read it because this is just a okay. Yeah, here we go. Oh, I will explain. This was for a clicker challenge. The challenge was to send your horse over to a cone 5-meter distance and then let your horse turn around and come back to you. So of course, I use targeting because you can simply say target this object or this object, but then I had to teach Kira to turn around and come back to me. So I kind of back chained it. First I started standing next to the cone, and then I walked further and further away. I trained this already, but when I made the video, I already trained this. So it looks really easy. And it was, because it was already a little bit trained. So I click again. Because I want her, after the click, to make that turn to get the treat. So she knows where she gets the click and where she gets the treat. Click. You see, 2 steps, 2 little steps already. And that's the beginning of morphing it into and make the time between the click and the reinforcer longer. So and I decided to put, I don't have this like public anymore because I thought this will get confusion, this will cause trouble for, because now I'm like 5 meters distance. And I'm walking towards that part, so I really entice her and make it clear that come, now you can come to the food, which I normally don't do. And she's already offering a trot because she knows if I get there faster, my treat will be there faster. So that's one of the things that made it really fun, and that's also one of the things where you can get in trouble because the horse is confused. But if you watch the video again, you can see that I really help her by I'm moving towards her like, yes, come, and you can watch it a few times and see how it works and what you can expect and how you can see if your horse gets it. If I would share this video with somebody who just started targeting, won't go well. And then clicker training is not good training. So let's share again. So this is when you use it like for experience, and this is why I teach it in the mastery course and not emphasize it sooner. So what can you use it for? You can use click SQ to build duration in a behavior with a high rate of e-enforcement. I forgot the R. For instance, at this picture, this was a picture that I asked my friend to take because this was when Kira was, I think, 8 weeks out of the nature reserve. And I had her for 8 weeks, and she was already ready for her first trim. So I was just feeding and feeding and feeding. And because the feeding is also the reinforcing moment, holding up her leg for the farrier was really reinforcing behavior. So I built duration in that behavior in this way. You can also reinforce momentum or speed. We just talked about that. For example, a click of approaching the cone and then walk around without stopping, turn around without stopping and coming back to you. So in that exercise, it's really cool because you can send your horse away and ask your horse to come back. Which I found really cool because I never learned how to do that in traditional training. I did learn it in natural horsemanship training, but then it was with a lot of threats. If you don't go away, I will make you go away. If you don't come back, I'll make you come back, which was not really a lot of fun for the horse, and therefore it wasn't fun for me. You can also reinforce safe behavior, like what I said, like usually after the click, you expect table manners. And you can also use it for later on under saddle, like that you teach your horse, click is not stop. Like at liberty, it doesn't matter. Trot, click, stop, treat. But under saddle, you really want trot, and you click for the trot, go to walk, stand still, then treat, and not like trot, break. So, key lessons. Hopefully it doesn't kick me out because it did last time when I came to this slide. So this is a whole different topic, how to use key lessons as training tools. And that's why I call your key lessons are the key to success, because these are really the building blocks that that are useful to use complex behaviors. So these are examples of I will share the videos, but it was just a reminder. Key lesson targeting to teach your horse to go to a cone and come back. We just saw that video. Then I have a video where mat training and targeting, in this case hip targeting, can be useful to align your horse next to a mounting block. I have a video where you can see that table manners, which is really extended gratification and targeting during dinner time. And I have a video where you can see that I use mat training, table manners, and patience for dinner time. So you can see like there's all mix and match. It's mix and match, and the possibility are endless. So now we have trained the horses in the key lessons and practiced the key lessons for trainers. And now we can really use that. And you already did use it in so many other situations as training tools. And the more conscious you become, how you can use this and what to choose, like, oh, for this behavior, I can picture, like Caro did that very well in her homework, like for this behavior, I need patience, I need this, I need that, and you already picked also like the mats as tools to create that walking in a square circle. So this week we will talk about table manners, mat training, and patience, mat training, and table manners, how you can use them to create other behaviors. So, and for those of you who want to become clicker coaches or want to teach a friend how to use positive reinforcement, keep in mind that the key lessons for horses need to be reliable and have a strong reinforcement history in order to give that horse extra clarity instead of causing frustration, because otherwise we will be lumping if we skip the key lessons. And that happened in when I trained Punky. It's the halter shy horse. I already mentioned that story before. There are a few videos in my YouTube channel with that. Punky's story was that he was not head shy. He was halter shy because of somebody who leased him and had natural horsemanship trainer. And then after that, he didn't want to be touched by halters or bridles. So I thought I'll just teach him to target on the halter and then I can put the halter on, done. But I was lumping because that was not the case. First, I have to teach him click a street. The owner already worked with street, so he was used to that. But in clicker training, because you shape the behavior, he got a lot of clicks and treats suddenly. So suddenly he was like, well, give me more, give me more, give me more. So he became really mugging horse. So I had to go back to table manners. Then I noticed that if I showed him the halter, he was really resistant. I worked with protective contact, so he was safe with the stall door behind between us, and I could hold it up, but he was backing and his head up. So that was a clear sign, even subtle, but a clear sign. I don't like this. So I had to teach him head lowering and targeting. I did that with targeting. So I had to teach him targeting, then I had to teach him head lowering, then I had to teach him stay with me and stay relaxed because it was all kind of exciting. And then I used targeting to hold up the halter and a target stick below that to put his nose in the halter. So I needed 4 out of 6 key lessons, and that was really, really humble experience because I thought as a experienced trainer I didn't really need that. It was more for my students to learn, and then I realized, yes, they are really, really good key lessons because I need them too. So that was really interesting. Only in this story I didn't use mat training because I didn't need to station him, and I didn't need backing because that was the opposite of what I wanted. So I could skip that and he could already back up. So we all lump from time to time. It's human and it's no big deal because now you know how to recognize it. Because if there's frustration in the horse, if he's distracted by something else or he zones out, then we know what to do. We have to take a break. And also we can recognize it in ourselves if we are limping. If we get frustrated because, shoot, targeting on the halter is not working. Now what? I thought, like at the drawing table, it worked perfectly. In practice, not so much. So, but I knew what to do. I was lumping, so I had to make my shaping plan, more steps in there. So again, if you feel that frustration, go back where you still were successful and adjust your shaping plan and smile. So let's um, watch a few more videos. Let's see if I can find the videos I want to show. So this is, oh, let's share, because otherwise I have a nice story without sharing. Share. So this is, in this video, you can see how mat training can be used and targeting, hip targeting can be used to teach your horse to align next to a mounting block. Again, I'm really, really good at free shaping behavior. So I already free shaped it. I did had the perfect, I perfectionated the behavior with hip targeting. That was really a big help. But I personally never used the mats. But in order to make a video, I added a mat, and you can see it's really interesting because Kira doesn't want to step on the mat because she's not used to the mat. And I wanted to have that video done that day. So it's really interesting how it all is a context shift. But you can also see, sorry for the sound, it's a little bit hard. The mat is here. Hip target, she does very well. And then here again, she didn't, for the video, she didn't want to walk away. So I have a mat right next to the camera where I sent her to. So that's, but you can see that you I could use a target stick for the mounting block instead of a mat, hip targeting. So I just want you to be creative, and the only purpose for showing these videos is to give you more ideas and to think out of the box. Well, I know you and Cara already, it doesn't even pops into your mind to drag your horse there and yank him until he stands still. So sometimes it's great to look back, like, where did I come from? What was normal a few years ago? And how do I do it now? So let's go back to the presentation. So key lessons as a training tool, like the criteria for the key lessons were neck straight, mouth closed, relaxed muzzle, and waiting patiently until the treat is delivered. Most of the criteria are also still used after the click. Like when I sent Kira over to the cone and when she turned around, she did come to me, but she didn't really come to the treat because she already knows that she's not, it's not a buffet. She cannot pick which one and when. I serve her. So that part of the table manners is still honored, and it's still a criteria. Even if she comes toward me, I still want her to be relaxed and not grabby and stuff like that. So when key lesson table manners is mastered, it's also the behavior that's mastered after the click. And the more you become aware of that, the better you can use it. So again, this was what we showed in the beginning. Cue, the blue one, and then behavior touching, and then the consequence is the click. So in the beginning, it's you say the cue touch, touching the target, and then the click is the first consequence. But the click becomes the cue for table manners, and then you get table manners, relaxed, horse, relaxed, mouth closed, and so on. And then he gets the treat. So patience as a training tool. For the horse, I think it's super important for the horse to teach um, key lesson patience because it's a communication tool. He can indicate because if it's your default behavior that you don't do anything else only after he showed patience. And in the beginning, I helped Kira and said, "This is what I want. Patience, that's my cue." And then she remembered, "Oh, yeah, I have to stand there and wait." And then I quit cueing her for it. So if I don't do anything, she will automatically align herself next to me. And that's what I really want, because that also can help me with teaching horses to lead. Because then I walk away, I stop, and Kira now follows me automatically. So I don't have to teach her to follow me, because she will follow me. And then I stop, and then she offers patience, and then she gets a treat, because I faded out the clicks. We talked about that last week. Why? Because that behavior is already like it's a whole behavior. So for the horse, patience as a training tool. If he doesn't understand the trainer, if he gets frustrated, he knows, you know what? I'll offer patience, because then I usually get the attention. Sometimes I get a treat, but I notice that if there's something really difficult I ask, and I lump, and we both get frustrated. If she does her default behavior, I'm like, "Oh, she doesn't understand. Thank you. Thank you for telling me this, Kira." And it really, really helped our relationship. So for the horse, it's a good communication tool to tell you, "I'm ready for the next cue," or "I don't understand what you want, but this is a behavior that you will reinforce often." So that's the beauty of a default behavior. And also, you give a behavior that he can always choose to do, even if there's no specific cue given. Like if I'm texting, or somebody calls me, usually I don't pick up the phone when I'm training, but sometimes I do. And then if I work at Liberty, she will not be, in the beginning, she tried to mug me then, just because she got my attention by that really, really quickly. So now I teach her to offer patience, and I remind myself, I'm on the phone. Oh, I notice patience. I will give her a treat, because I really, really want her to offer me patience. And also to manage emotions when the horse is frightened or excited. They can do it themselves. I see Kira's offering, sometimes it's a little bit a mix between head rowing and patient, but I can see that she's trying to soothe herself, like, "Oh, that's exciting." And every time there's excitement, like when I had to train her for the automatic fence in her past boarding facility, it was like a big, huge iron fence which made a lot of noise because it rolled open automatically, and they don't see anybody, so it's like suddenly something moves and make noise. And I taught her, "Okay, when this happens, I want you to offer patience." And later on, if she got like a little bit nervous, she's trying to calm herself down with patience, because the relaxation is trained in that behavior. For the trainer, it's also good, because it gives me time to think between exercises. If I'm training and sometimes I don't know what to do, or I think, this went well, I have a little bit more treats, I have a little bit more time, what can I do? You go in patience, and then I can think. Or if I was lumping or get frustration, if I can just say, "You know what, wait patiently, and I have time to think." It gives the horse so much clarity what to do, like the default behavior, like I just explained. It's also safe behavior when I'm distracted, like what I said, like when I'm talking to people, she used to be very kind of, well, rude. It was not rude, it was just learned behavior. Because if I was talking to my friend, she suddenly started to push like my pockets and stuff like that. And she never done that. And of course she got attention the first time she did it, because I did react, and that other person was laughing, so she was reinforced double. So that was really hard to get rid of that mugging behavior, because that's something I cannot train by myself. I need that other person. So now then I became very focused. Okay, I'm talking to you. Oh, she's offering patience. I better not wait too long to give her a treat. And sometimes I give her 10 treats, because I just want to build duration. Um, I needed now also to set up my camera, because uh, she found out that I will react if she pushed my camera into the sand or into the mud. And I know it became a reinforcing thing. So sometimes she just walks over to the camera just to get attention. And I fall for it. What can I say? I fall for it. I do have a watertight thing around my camera, because I have the GoPro, but still I don't want it in the mud and in the sand. It's also a calming exercise in despooking, like what I said for the electric automatic fence. I trained that in there, and then I'm glad that I filmed that whole process, because after 5 sessions, she was so good at that fence. I could never just make a video about that process afterwards. And patience comes in as a good tool to train all behaviors where your horse has to stand calmly, like mounting, grooming, for the vet, and so on. Um, Now I trained patients for grooming, and now you can see that she really lowers her head. In the beginning, she didn't even like grooming, but now I think she started to like it, because patient is so entangled with relaxation. Like we can get like our emotions going up, like, oh, I'm irritated by grooming, I'm irritated, I don't like it. But you can also turn it around and flip it, like, oh, I'm relaxed, oh, it's not that bad, that whole grooming thing. Mat training as training tool. In this top left corner, I did mat training, and this was she's standing on a horse scale. And there's somebody in the Netherlands that travels around the country with a large scale like this. He puts a piece of carpet on there, and then you can measure your horse. And I wanted to know how heavy she was. She was 425 kilograms. And her friend, who was an Arabian, she was 1.5. Her friend was 2, was 10 centimeters higher, weighed only 400 kilos. So that was a big difference. And it was interesting, because she was she was boarded at a riding school, and more people were lining up for getting their horse on the scale. And a lot of horses did not want to step on something unfamiliar. While our horses, my horse was like just only a year out of the wild, and she stepped on it. So that was a big difference. So in the middle picture, you see mat training. I have like all kinds of mats laying out there, so I could send Kira from mat to mat. And this was a picture. I used poles and a mat, and then one day she decided to lay down there. And it was interesting that she picked that spot next to the mat. So that gave me an idea, like, oh, maybe I can even teach her to lay down on a mat. That would be cool for like in the future. So mat can be used to give your horse clarity where to go. It also gives your horse clarity where to expect the treat. and when to expect the treat. Like in the example of going over a jump, you can expect the treat on the mat. And because the mat becomes reinforced by good things, by good things, by good things, by chewing, by eating, by fun things, it also becomes a safety blanket and a spot to become calm or stay calm. So if there's something really excited or you have to do a demo, if I would do a demo with Skira, I would make sure that I would have a mat in the arena. So if she spooks, I know for sure she will run to that mat because it's so soothing for her. It's really gives her a lot of clarity. And mat training is, if you use it as a tool, you can, because the basic concept is that you teach your horse to step onto something unfamiliar. So you can teach your horse to step onto and also into whatever you ask. So for instance, in this picture, it helped me to get in the water because it was something new and she was just trying it out. That little bridge there, that was also something because it was a wooden bridge and most horses like, oh, it sounds different. I don't know if I trust it. So mat training and all that kind of training and going up ramps and pedestals, ramps from your trailer, mat training is such a great help. You can use a mat to send your horse away from you, just like a cone in targeting. You can teach your horse to go straight after a jump, go to the mat and then fade out the mat so you keep your straight line. You keep momentum after the click in a certain gait, like trot, like you are already doing. It calms your horse down. And for mounting, because you can teach your horse where to stop and wait. Now we have more time for your case studies. Let's see, what's the time? Oh, okay. So in the case studies, you have already picked a goal behavior. I think by now you have, well, I know for sure you have written a training plan. You know how it fits into your bigger plan, which is really, really important. And you made a shaping plan. Have you already thought about cues at this point, Hilda? You're muted. Shall I unmute you? Yeah, I unmuted you.
Now I'm here. Yeah, I have cues, the verbal cues and body language cues. I have move forward and trot.
Yeah.
I don't think, I would say canter, gallop,
Mm-hmm.
that, but I don't think I will do that now because it's too small. The circle is too small now.
Yeah.
I also have a verbal cue for her moving away from me with her shoulder.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So do you use that on the circle as well? If she walks on the circle and she makes the circle a little bit smaller, that
yeah, I'll tell her go
yeah,
away, and I will.
it sounds so Dutch. Ga uit, naar buiten. Hup.
Also use my hand, but I probably would try now to not use my hand. And I also, to make her go faster, I will straighten myself up and look more forward, upwards, and bring energy into my body. And when I want her to slow down, I will release the tension, or not tension, but release the energy.
You just calm yourself down, the energy, lower your energy. Yeah, because that's also something that they react to.
Yeah, and then also I have roulé, relax, go down, and that because that doesn't mean you have to change the gait. It means slow down the gait. So
Okay, yeah.
calmer, slow down, but don't break down to walk. It's just sometimes she will run very fast, and I need to calm down, but still trot.
Yeah, excellent. And then you can fade out the cues and the cues and the mats. How I do it, I usually don't put that in my shaping plan. Well, I more general idea, but I fade it out by looking at the moment. Oh, I have like 4 mats to ask Kira to walk to the mat, or I put the poles on the ground in a square, and I just try it out. I just take out one and see what happens. And then maybe I take out another one and then see what happens, or a third one, and then I put one back in another spot. So that I'm kind of shifting the context and test if she understands the concept. And the concept is then walk on a circle. And it's a hard concept to understand, because sometimes the circle I want her on is a little bit bigger than other times. So I usually keep using kind of environmental cues, like maybe a tire on the ground, or something that she knows. Because she knows really good how to walk around things now. So even if I make that object smaller and smaller, she still has a visual, and that's okay with me. I think you can also train them if you have a round pen or a picadero or whatever, to keep them on the track.
Yeah, I have been using. I have the circle now is going past the trailer simulator, so
Mm-hmm.
they go between a wall and lots of pallets, and then I have three cones as well. But when I use this, at least for Shakira, I can't go too far away from her because she will follow me, and then I can tell her to go out, and she will go outside the cones, and then she will try to come inside again, and it will be a bit wiggly or
That becomes the behavior. The trotting on a circle is not strong enough. So
yeah,
if you focus on that, and it becomes really really strong, that she offers it, and then because what can become a challenge is she will offer trot, and then she gets clicks, and she will offer it and offer it, and then she will offer it longer, more duration. Um, then it can also be challenging to suddenly put it back on the normal cue again. It depends on, but you already using the cue, so we will see what will happen there. And then, yeah, focus on the behavior, on the trotting and the circle, before worrying, because if that's strong enough, fading out the objects will be easy. If you fade out the objects too soon, you will get walk, or you get that she comes inside. It really, and in the beginning, lots of repetition at the same time, the same. Don't move the circle there or there. Then she almost like, oh, I see the setup. That means 2 circles of trot, and then turn around, 2 circles of trot, and that's it. Until that's established, then you have the behavior, then you can take a look at what you can fade out,
yeah,
the props, and also maybe then use the normal cues like trot. Maybe in the beginning you have to use the cues, go to the mat, or go
yeah,
around the cone or whatever, and because the trot is behavior you are clicking for. So they will understand that that's the behavior that is also getting reinforced.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of trying it out, because they're all individuals, and maybe Shakira says, well, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah, maybe. Oh,
But that's what I should do, what I would do, like, yeah, train that trot for this, because once you have that behavior really, really strongly, it's easier to ask one circle, and then maybe you can train canter separately, and then she will offer canter, 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 and then you can like ask trot, canter, walk,
would be amazing.
and then you get all the variations. But if you can just get that trot very, very strongly, and you have time, there's enough time, and once they know it, and with that's the beauty of positive reinforcement. Every behavior you train can be a tool for another behavior, because you train the concept of staying on the circle. So it will be easier to transfer to canter, because she already knows the setup. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, sure.
Any questions?
No.
Questions about what we talked about today?
Yeah, I could see how that is, that behaviors never stop. So it's, if the horse doesn't fall dead down, of course, because in the beginning it would be, you would click and reinforce, and maybe the horse would turn his head, and that would be a new behavior before you were quick enough to feed. And if you're not aware, you could reinforce the turning of the head. And yeah, so I see how there is a gap, and you can use that in a positive way to get more other behaviors that you want.
Yeah, and it also has to do with timing, right? If you want duration, and they touch something, and they immediately like, where's my treat?
Yeah.
Then you give the treat. Then you reinforce like the turning of the head, instead of staying at the cone. And that's where the technique feeding for position can help.
Yeah.
And also like more rapidly firing. If they touch the cone, click treat, and then feed at the cone, that the turning of the head doesn't get reinforced. And yeah, I remember the video of Shakira where with the targeting, and that she pushed it, and then just clicking before she pushed it, then it gave her clarity. Oh, I have to do something with the target, but not push it over.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting also to, if you look back at other videos of yourself, to recognize what was going on and how did I solve it, because you solved everything. In the beginning, there was a period that Shakira was a little bit more like turning towards you, like, hey, where's my treat? Or the thing with the cone that she pushed it over. And that was a matter of timing, but also become conscious of what you are reinforcing. And that's also what I meant in the beginning of this webinar. That's why I don't teach it in the beginning. In the beginning, I'm like, okay, the click is table manners. That's it.
Yeah.
But now your horses, and also Caro's horse, Kvix is so clicker trained and so advanced, and then horses want more, and then you can get more, like sending them to a cone and then click, and then reinforcing, because the click is a reinforcer also. So it's a reinforcer and it's a cue for another behavior. And then it's the context that they picked it up, because if I have a cone and I send Kira to it, if I click then, she knows, oh, it's for turning and coming towards you. But then I faded out the click, and then I sent her away with just pointing at the cone and saying touch. And then I gave the cue. And then when she was back at me, then I clicked and reinforced. So then I started clicking and reinforcing for the whole sequence. And she understood that, because if she walked 2 steps and then turned around, nothing happened.
Yeah.
I asked her again, go to the cone, touch it, and come back. And then she really understood, like, okay, I only get a click for the whole thing. So, okay, you know what? I'll better hurry up, because I get my treat sooner. So she started like walking to the cone, because it was a bit hard to walk away from me. And then when she touched the cone, it's like, wing, come back. So those are really fun things to be aware of. Like, okay, it's hard for the horse to move away from me, and it's easy for the horse to come toward me. So, and that's also, you can use that as to teach your horse to come towards you. And there's like, I can think of a gazillion ways to use mats and targets to do that. I do have some videos that I wanted to show, if you don't have any questions.
I'd like to see.
Because it's nice to see the videos, and if I can tell you what is happening.
I have one question though.
Yes.
I think maybe to practice sending her away from me will make it easier for her to also keep a distance at the circle, maybe? Would that? Yeah, because she knows good things happen even on a distance.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And then you can click for walking away from you. Like every time, also if she moves with her shoulders away and makes the distance between you and her bigger, and then you click, and then you can make sure, I would make sure that you would go deliver the treat.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you reinforce the opposite behavior at the same time, which you do not want during that learning process, to build that confidence, like, oh, it doesn't matter a distance or not.
Yeah.
So then you can maybe send her to a cone, and then in the beginning, like one step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and then click, and then go to her, and then maybe send her to a cone and a mat. And those are like smaller exercises that you can also like implement in your training sessions, like, because this will help your case study.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, it's super good question. Okay, the video. This is about teaching Kira not to crowd me during feeding time. And I used targeting. I taught her to target a stationary target in her paddock. And the cue, I wanted the cue to be her white feeding bucket. This was like 2 boarding facilities ago, so the whole setup is different, so I don't use it anymore, because I don't have to feed her anymore. Oh. Sorry. Sound is a little bit loud, sorry. So I set myself up for success to having 2 buckets. So she, even if she, like, she smells it, she's like, ah. And I had several sessions like with the white bucket with nothing in there, and then sent her over to the target at her in her little house, and she comes back. But I say, no, you only get reinforced there. So, and that took me a little while to really send her all the way to her house. New share. All the way to her house to go to that stationary target, because she wanted to be with the bucket, because of course that was trained for 7 years, and now suddenly I changed like the rules, like, oh, I would like you to go, if you see me come with the food, I want you to walk away, which is really, really the opposite. And I think for horses, I wonder if it's even harder for herbivores to learn this, because it's extended gratification, than for predators, because a predator like a cat knows, oh, I see a mouse, I just want it now and I want to eat it, and just go for it. The mouse is like, oh, I see a cat, like, I'll better run. So the cat learns to ambush the food, because if it acts too soon, there will be no food at all. Like for a herbivore, they live on their food, they sleep in it, they do everything in it. So they don't have that natural extended gratification about food. So I think for horses, it's even maybe more a difficult concept to grasp. And then on top of that, they are born in stables and nobody pays attention to that, teaching them the concept of extended gratification. It's the opposite. Oh, you kick your door, I better feed you faster.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to it's really hard for horses to do that. Let's see if I can have the same. There's another video that I wanted to share. Can you see my?
Yeah, I see the YouTube site.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Because I don't know if it goes well with the tabs. I see a black screen now because it has to.
It's not running, I think.
Yeah.
There it is.
I'm sorry. Okay. In this video, I taught Kira to. I used mat training and patience to wait on the mat until I could come in. You can see the hay net already there. I really shaped this behavior. I made a shaping plan that I hear another video running. Let's see.
Okay.
Stop share. Something else is running. I don't know what. Because I hear birds as well. Okay. Sorry about that. In this video, where's my Zoom? Oh, it's going great. In this video, I taught Kira to wait until on the mat until I could hang her hay net somewhere in the paddock. This is the boarding facility where I'm now. And I decided to put her on a mat because the gate opens like this, and I wanted her to stand on that side of the gate because it opens inwards. Because I figured it is a really long distance. It's about 7-8 meters. but I also thought that's the most safe spot where I want her. Really far away, really, until I could almost like hang the net and then come back, close the paddock, and then send her for her food. And when I was training this, she was facing where I would hang the mat, and it was really difficult. And then I just sent her to the mat, just like I sent her to the cone in the other video. And then she stood there, not facing where I was going. And I was filming the whole process because I wanted to make a video about this. And it was so interesting because that made it so much easier for her to wait. So that's also was a learning point, like, because I thought automatically if you can watch me and watch me walk back, that's easier. But apparently, maybe it because it's a herbivore, or like, you know, I don't see my food, I don't think about it, I don't know. But it made it way easier. And then I give the end of session signal and she stays on the mat. Which was also really interesting because she was, well, she wasn't hungry, but it was, well, there was so much food for her. How can she resist? Like, because she has equine metabolic syndrome, so she's always hungry. She's diabetes 2, basically. So that was an interesting point of learning that I kind of accidentally stumbled upon. Oh, this makes it easier. While on the drawing board, I thought that would be so easy not to let her watch me, because normally she wants to watch me and see everything I do. Yeah. So that's why I faced her towards where I would hang the mat. So, and I'm like, okay, this is something that I can use maybe later on in a different situation, maybe with a different horse, or so there's so much to learn, and they teach you so much as well. And by paying attention, you can learn it. So this is kind of the end result. Like, I taught her to stand on the mat and then hang the mat. So now I walk away. And I taught this really like step by step. And in the beginning, the mat, the hay net, that wasn't even hay. But this was interesting because she's not facing me. So I really give her lots of treats, because this was the first time that I could really hang the mat, hang the net, and come back without her going towards the hay. So I was, yay. I want to really reinforce. And now usually I do this, and then she immediately goes to whatever she wants to do. But I'm like, oh, she's staying on the mat. She's staying on the mat. She's staying on the mat. And then finally, after I turned the camera off, she decided to, okay, let's take a look. Stop share. I have another video about this.
Did she go straight to the hay net, or did she have to search for it then?
No, she went straight to the hay net, so she knew where it was.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Then we have another video where, so this is a video, maybe I know I shared it earlier, but this is also for patients and head lowering.
Really wet.
Oh, it was so wet. And then when I ask her to come, she offers patience. That this is how you can use mats to respond. This is where she offers patience by herself. This is what her default is. And that's what I wanted to show you, because I have another video, but I couldn't find it, where I ask patients, I walk, I say, come along, and then I stand still, and without saying anything, she offers patience, and that's what I'm reinforcing. So wherever I go now, she will go towards, she stays with me, and she aligns herself next to my shoulder, which is really, I love that. So I didn't have to use a target stick or whatever, because it's built in the whole patient's key lesson. So in here you can see, oh, she thought, oh, I can come back. No, go back. Okay. Until I click, and now I went and delivered the treat. And there's another video. I've 2 more videos. Or one. No, one. There's one more, which I wanted to share, because it's also about safety. Oh, let me see. I hear another video in the background because I hear wind and okay. Can you see a video right now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is also with at the boarding facility with that automatic gate. At across the street, at the end of the video, I will take the camera to where we came from. Across the street is this fire hydrant.
Yeah.
So what I did is I taught Kira to touch that, and I used it as a stationary target, because if you go see along the road, at the end of the road there's a dike, and then you could ride there, and it was beautiful, and the sea was behind there, so it was super cool, but in case she ever spooked and I was riding there and she would throw me off, I had that once with my first pony, and I thought he knew the way, but in his panic, instead of choosing going over the bridge, the viaduct that went over the highway, he went under and he got on the highway. Because in his panic, he couldn't think, so he chose he made a wrong decision. So he got lost on the highway, which was really, really scary. So with Kira, I taught her this thing as a stationary target, because it's always there. It will never, ever go away. You can also use like a traffic sign or a big boulder or whatever you have, something that will never, ever go away. So here I'm teaching her to touch the target. And the idea is, when I go riding, whenever I got out of the gate, I asked her to touch. She was allowed to graze. Then we went for a walk. And when I came back, I said, touch. And then this was the only designated place where she could have a few bites of grass, or I gave her lots of treats. And the idea is, luckily I never had to test it, but the idea was, because it was a long road, if she would spook and lose me, that she would automatically go towards the fire hydrant as a safety blanket, instead of running past the property where she lived.
Yeah.
And then at least if there were other people, they could get her in, or she would stay there, because I knew she would start grazing there.
Yeah.
And then I say low, and that means grazing, because she's like, touch. Oh, where's your hand?
Yes.
See, she's going, the click is hand feeding instead of grazing. So I have to cue her for, no, you can eat grass, as a reinforcer. So this is where the fence is, where she lives. So it's and now I'm just going for a walk. Oh, sorry. Stop. Sorry for the noise. Oh, yeah. So that's also like a possibility to build in safety when you're going out with your horses. If there's something in the driveway that you can really make a strong stationary target, that if they spook, they will go there, because that happens with mats. I've seen that before. When Kira's spooking, they try to find something that will bring them comfort. So that's why I was targeting her on the fire hydrant, to create that safety, fun things, and hopefully in case of emergency, it would be strong enough to make her stop there instead of like going the other way.
Yeah, that's very smart. Yep.
So maybe that's something that you can use as well.
Yeah, sure.
And it also helps if she because Shakira gets a little bit frightened outside, right?
Yeah.
So is there something? Are you walking on the road?
Yes, I am, and there's lots of traffic. I don't have any straight roads nearby.
But are there traffic signs in the Netherlands? I know we have those reflector poles, like. So
yeah.
you could use that as targeting points, because the targeting will calm her down.
Yeah. Now there are snow poles for every 10-20 meters, and she likes to target them. And sometimes she just walks on them, and they will swing, and she doesn't care. But I can see she really used them by herself as target sticks.
Yeah, because those things, like, this is what you have in your environment. This is also on the side of the road, not on the middle of the road. So it can help to calm her down and create safety and whatnot. And maybe there's like a specific point, and yeah, you can help it to calm her down.
Yeah, and also there's green fields next to the road on both sides, which is ours. So if I see a big truck or whatever, sometimes I just walk down in the grass, and she will graze, and I don't think anything can disturb her when she's grazing. And she's not scared of traffic anyway, but if she's already tense because she's nervous of being away, she can react to things she normally wouldn't do. Yeah.
Exactly. Trigger stacking. It's called trigger stacking. And then something that she normally wouldn't spook her, it can be just, and then it is a normal truck, but they just release that air or whatever. They do something extra, and then it's like poof. So yeah, that's really smart.
Grass, because when she's eating grass, there's really, I don't think she.
And something else happens, because she gets reinforced for every time, like, oh, the trucks, like usually you see, like in the Netherlands, they put young horses, they like to put them in a pasture with lots of traffic.
Yeah.
Because the first day they're like, oh, traffic. And then the second day is like, that truck is not coming in my pasture, so I don't care. And that's and it, of course, it's different when you take them on the road, because then there's a contact shift, but it still helps to confirm unconscious, like trucks are, it's not scary, there's nothing scary or whatever.
And if there's other horses who doesn't care, of course, that's very helpful as well.
But it's really good that you take that into consideration, that you look like forward, like build in safety as much as you can. And then, and she will get used to it, and it will get safer. With each training, it will get safer.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
yeah,
she's
good.
22 and she can now walk mm, 300 meters away from home.
Really,
But
this will go so fast if you do it like you are doing it. Because in
20,
the beginning, well, she's 20, but you don't know. Maybe she has 10 more years or 15 more years in her. So it would be fabulous if she learns this. And in the beginning, I remember with Kira didn't even want to go out of the stable and around the corner with her head because the other horses were suddenly out of sight and it was
yeah,
and I literally built that step by step and then I moved her and I had to do it all over again and then I moved her and I did to do it all over again and then I moved her again and again I had to go through the whole process, only the process was way quicker. Like at the fifth stable it was like a matter of 2 or 3 times.
okay, yeah,
And like in the beginning, because of this boarding facility with the automatic gates, then like going off of the property was like, then there was the gate and then there was some new thing. So that like, and it was a really long driveway. It was a huge multi-millionaire property. So before you were at the end of the driveway, that was already like new.
yeah,
So but everything, like the process went faster and faster every time. Um and it's good because the more you do the first 300 meters, the stronger that gets and the safer it feels for her, because and then you just expand her comfort zone. That's what you're basically doing.
hmm. Yeah. It really helps this doing the same thing 5 times, 5 days in every zone, doing the same things over and over, and it really has made the oh the key lessons so very strong.
Yeah,
You
because every time you repeat them, they become stronger, and the more stronger they become, the more reliable they get.
Yeah, and now it's proofing every time because every fifth day it's a new zone.
Yeah,
Even if it's 20 meter further, it's a new place and doing them there as well. So yeah, it's getting really strong now.
and also like in the beginning with Kira, when I walked off of the property and then I walked back, then she was only calm when she was back. But because her comfort zone expanded, I could do, for instance, like I could take her like 50 meters out of her comfort zone and then go back into her comfort zone, which was not home, and then go back and then go forth and then go back and then go home, for instance.
Yeah. Hmm.
So in that comfort zone you can go back in, but it doesn't mean that you have to go back to the center. So that's also, and that's I love that kind of training. I just love that because you can see that they are really um, try to manage their own emotions.
Yeah, and I can see when we get there and start doing the, the lessons, oh yes, finally we can focus and work, and she's not trying to get to the grass because it's next to the road. She's really working, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's because they are in thinking mode, and that's so important because they don't get in that flight or fight mode anymore, because you recognize it and you know what to do, and you have so much tools. You can offer targeting, you can offer patience, you can offer so many things that calm her down because you worked so hard to get that relaxation ingrained as part of that behavior. And that's why it's so important to
Mm.
repeat those lessons every day. And then it's like, oh, patience. Oh, that means relax. Oh, targeting. I know what to do. Oh, I can relax because it's not hard. It's easy. Oh, I'm so glad that it's an easy question, and that will help them.
Yeah, and I just started writing to the zones. I write through the old zones. Uh, Usually she will go down in the grass. I just have a halter and ropes, so she will suddenly she is in the grass. But then I just get off and ask her to put her head up, and she comes and we walk the rest of the way together.
Yeah, and you can also ask her, for instance, practice with hand targeting, or take a smaller target on her back, and then just wait until she's done grazing it. Or then you can click and reinforce, just like you did on the ground.
Yeah, I can do that as well. I'm just afraid she'll. It feels like she's a little bit nervous, so I don't want to push her there. And I just thought I would teach her. She can give me a cue to get off her back, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I started doing that today because I don't want her to throw me off. And I hope, today I just asked her to line up, and she always comes. And I went up, and I thought she could put her nose on my foot.
Yeah.
So I'm not now. When she turns, she always turns to get her treat, because I like to treat her for getting to the mounting block, because I think that's amazing that she comes. So she turned her head, and I put my foot out. Then I clicked and jumped off and gave her the treat. Was that the right way, or should I?
Yeah, I think I haven't done the demounting cue yet. I would like to do that as well. But every time you teach your horse to distinguish between two things, like red and blue, or mounting and dismounting, in the beginning you click and treat for both choices, because you want it also to make it a good choice, and then they can also indicate, like, oh, I'm lining up next to the mounting block. That's a sign that I will be mounted again. So it's a good thing, and then you can fade out the clicks and treats, and morph it into, if I touch your feet, you dismount.
Yeah, I was a bit unsure if I should. When she touched my foot, I clicked, because I thought that was what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I didn't feed her right then, because I thought I have to show her that I'm getting off.
But that's a good thing, because you went off, you dismounted, and fed her the treat from the ground.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just be her touching my foot, and that was it. And maybe if I treated her right then, she would think, oh, that's just kind of a treat.
Yeah, then it's just touching your foot, and then. But if you.
That was another thing.
Yeah.
So then it's all right to click. It will be a delayed delivery of the treat, but she will get it, you think?
Yeah, she will definitely get it, and also she will also understand, like, if I touch your foot, like your right foot or your left foot, you can also make a distinction there. There's one foot, then I will dismount. And if you practice that, repeat that a few times, and then do it a few times after riding, like you are done with riding, I ask you to touch my foot, and then I get off. That's just like right away, and then you don't get back on.
Yeah.
And then see what happens. And it can happen that in the beginning, because it happens all the time. In the beginning, when you are still shaping the behavior and training the behavior before it's established, they will offer the behavior spontaneously.
Mm.
So it might look like, oh, she wants me to get off all the time, but maybe she's just offering touching your foot.
Yeah, but it was a bit strange because if when I had done it 2 or 3 times and I put my foot out and she turned to get the treat, but she didn't touch my foot. She clearly was, she wanted to get to me, but she didn't want to touch my foot.
Well, I
So
think that's a clear sign that she didn't want you to dismount.
I just was sitting on her and I gave her some treats on the other side for being so nice to let me stay. And then I tried to offer my foot again and then she touched it. So I was really wondering if she had understood it so
I think
far.
so. I think so. I think if she would not have liked riding, she would have definitely touched your foot right away.
Yeah. That's nice to know.
That's what I truly believe, because like in the beginning when I was teaching horses to target, like in the beginning I thought, oh, it's a coincidence. Well, they do not touch objects with their nose coincidentally. They always do it on purpose. And the more horses are trained, the more clear it became. They never, some horses accidentally bump into something with their nose, but not on purpose because it's super sensitive. So, and they have those hairs, and it's their investigation tool, their nose. So no, if they touch it, it is deliberate. And even if it looks like undeliberately to us because it's like in a movement, it's still deliberate. So what you say, like she didn't want to touch my foot, I truly think that's deliberate because she knows how to touch.
Yeah, she knows.
So she missed out on a treat by not touching your foot, and she missed out on you dismounting. And apparently she did not want you to dismount otherwise. And that's why it's so important to put a treat on the dismount me cue as well, because
Yeah.
you don't want it to be all about relief.
Yeah. And I gave her a treat on the other side when she clearly didn't want to touch my foot. I gave her.
Exactly, because then she doesn't have to miss out on the treat as well.
Yeah, I thought so because, and oh, that's wonderful that she really wants me there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I, yeah, I hope she will use it. I will, yeah, I really hope she will use it instead of throwing me off. She can just touch my foot.
Yeah, and you can, well, that's why it's important to practice this everywhere, so in different contexts, so
Yeah.
that she really understands it's about the dismounting. It's not about touching the foot at the mounting block, but it's the concept. When I do this, my rider dismounts. That's the concept. And then, because then you can safely use it outside as well, and you can even do it outside if you feel that she get attention.
Yeah.
Touch my foot, dismount.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear, because when there's tension, they are getting out of thinking mode, and
Sure.
because this is a new behavior, you really have to remind her, like, oh, remember, if you're not clear and you want me off, please use your cue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's you will find a way, I'm sure, but because this is like the theory, and then you go to your horse and it's, well, I
Yeah.
only want to touch her the other foot, or they find another cue or whatever. But the only thing that I would like to warn you a little bit about is I know somebody that had this similar dismounting, and it morphed into biting into the food.
Oh goodness, yeah. Yeah, I will like to keep my toes, so I hope she doesn't go that far.
But you know that because you had that pitfall already a little bit with touching and pushing over the cone, so you know what to do. Like make sure that she it has her mouth closed and relaxed, and is also not really excited, like wing.
Yeah.
You know? Just calmly touch my foot and not like wing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So that's because that can just morph into, because they can be super fast. But I think this lady skipped so many steps that her horse just got agitated and is like, oh, I know what to do. I just bite your foot, and got reinforced for that. And then bam, it was in there. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's always the case, we always have to be careful that we don't train them to bite us. And
yeah, that's true. So I be careful with my feet, because in the summer sometimes I ride barefoot and I would not enjoy to be bitten.
well, that is super important to think of that now. Like, okay, in the summer I ride barefoot, so I want this cue to be really, really established and gentle before I try to ride without shoes or with flip-flops or whatever. And I think it's nice because your foot is always there, and if you teach them to touch the stirrup and you ride without a saddle, well, they will find your foot or they will find a way. But yeah, I think it's nice because this is the target that you always have around.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I've been wondering what I should use, but the foot is always there, and I can for it as well and ask her, do you want me to get off? Or
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's wonderful. And I can't wait until to hear more about it and what happens. But yeah, the story you told me, that she didn't want to touch your foot. I'm sure that she did that on purpose.
I thought so, but then I thought, oh, it's just I have just tried for 2 or 3 times, so it should really.
No, because you know what happens usually in targeting. If they see the target, she saw your foot, I'm just going to touch it just to be sure to get that treat, And now she deliberately did not want to touch it because she knew what the C was. The consequence in the ABC was dismount and a treat.
Yeah, and I was almost following her with my foot.
Touch it! Touch it!
Oh, I want to touch it. So.
No, and you can just ride on and then ask 5 minutes later, touch it. And also you can also say, you know what? I just want to dismount, so I will dismount even if you don't touch my foot.
Yeah, sometimes, that could be a problem if she never wanted me to go off.
And then you have to figure out something to make it still. That's why you give also a treat when you dismount, because you also want to make it, because that is a possibility that they say no.
You can it's over now, you're leaving and it's boring, and it could be a problem.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, I think I have my head filled up.
Yeah. So the homework, work on your case study and practice to fade out a tool or clicks for one behavior that is under stimulus control. So we can think of one of the key lessons because, for instance, stepping onto a mat. We can fade out the clicks for stepping on the mat and ask for a second behavior and click that. So we make it a little bit longer. so that we say like, okay, standing on the mat or offering patience, that's a signal for me that I can offer you an opportunity and a behavior which gives you the chance of earning a click. So it's not the mat, but the mat will set up the environment and they will learn that quickly. So that's how the mat become even stronger. You don't have to like reinforcement. We have to reinforce behavior always once in a while. So if I say fade out, it does not mean never ever click for it or never ever use that tool. But if you, for instance, if you used a mat to teach your horse to align next to the mounting block, fade that one out and keep track, like this is the behavior I picked, this is what I, and it doesn't have to be perfect in a week, but I just want you to try and become aware, because we get so used to our clicks and we get so used to our behaviors and our tools and our target stick. It also gives us confidence if we know that we can get the behavior even without the target stick or the mat or whatever. Do not do this for your case study behavior, but pick another behavior that, you know, where did my tools became such a habit, and then practice that. Or do I always click for the same behavior? Do I always, for what key lesson do I still click? Try to fade that out. And the goal is to practice fading it out, to become aware. Where do you click too much? Where do you still rely on your tools where the behavior is already established? So the goal is to practice fading out.
Yep. Yeah, I need to practice on that.
Well, pick one behavior, one tiny thing, like during feeding time, that if there's something like, one of the things that I click too much for is still like, okay, move backwards so I can open the gate. If I have the clicker still in my hand or I still have treats, I almost always still reinforce that. I'm fading out at the moment. I'm fading out giving treats for getting her out of the paddock.
Yep.
So that's it.
Yep. Next Wednesday, I have to be away for work, so I don't think I'll be home.
No problem. It will be a replay.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
So thank you for letting me know. Caro, we missed you, but I'm sure you will watch the replay. And it happens, like, yeah, we have things to do and sometimes things come up. So no problem. And have fun working on case studies and homework. And let's keep in touch in the Facebook group. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.